Welcome back to Killer Fun. I'm Christy.
I'm Jackie.
And we're so glad that you're back with us today. Today, we're going to talk about the Ode to Agatha Christie murder mystery from
That's
Netflix.
Good. That hadn't even crossed my mind, but you're right.
How did it not cross your mind?
I don't know. All I could see was like those dinner parties where you go to a place and then, you figure out who the murderer is and like...
That's right.
Yeah,
you get your little invitation and it tells you how to dress and what your name is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we did those when I was in high school for our theater like banquet that we did.
My husband's always wanted to do it. So we've bought them over the years, but we've never actually followed through.
Oh,
I don't know why, but we just haven't. I don't know.
It's one of those things like going to like the banquet and doing it was fun because somebody else brought you food.
Right.
I'd almost somewhere. Like I want it to be catered. I don't mind doing it in my house, but I want somebody else to like bring me food and talk about
I don't think I could keep character in my own house. And I think for me, if I want to do it and completely
like
put on the character.
Yeah,
absolutely. And so if I'm in my own house, I know that I'm going to have to break character to deal with something practical. But if you go somewhere, then you can be in character.
That's
you can,
right.
you know the movie Clue.
I love the movie
Sorry.
Clue.
It was random, but
no, because the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking about Clue, and how like they're very like. If you thought Clue was stupid, you probably wouldn't like this movie. If you enjoyed the campy fun that was Clue, you probably really like this movie.
Exactly. I just introduced that to my kids recently.
Oh, really?
Yes, they fell in love.
Yeah,
but how can you not?
For reals, man. Come on.
Fantastic.
Anybody who's ever played the game is like, it's the ballroom,
Right. Well, and, the best actors.
Yes.
I mean, they're so good,
Yes.
Tim Curry is always fantastic.
Yes, exactly.
Always.
Steals the show.
It's delightful. Everything he's in, he just elevates it so much. He's just so good.
Yep. Yep. So... let's talk about this movie.
Yeah, I liked this movie. Did you like this movie?
I've seen it twice now. I really like this movie. And it was, it's just dumb fun. And, you have to suspend your disbelief about some things. But I wasn't going into it thinking it was like a documentary of some kind.
No. You know what I like about these types of movies is when they're able to put something that's simple without necessarily making it just dumb or relying on silly fart jokes the whole time. They're able to just do some delightful kind of comedy,
Well, and there's so many like good little one-liners and them just talking about stuff kind of offhanded or like the other characters can't hear them and they're like, duh, we can hear you. And it was really funny.
It helps that both Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston, when they're on screen, both of them individually and now together, they're always delightful. No matter what character they're playing. Jennifer Aniston especially, because she has played a lot of different kind of people.
Yeah.
But she's always just kind of mesmerizing and you just enjoy watching her. And Adam Sandler's kind of the same way. Even when he's in something completely silly, he's just got this kind of this, I don't know, jolliness about him that's always a little happy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It was directed by Kyle Newacek. He was the co-creator of Comedy Central's long-running show Workaholics. So I thought that kind of fit. I've only seen an episode or so of Workaholics, but it's got kind of the same feel.
I've never seen it. So that's,
it's
good to know.
Supposed to be great, but I don't know. I've not seen enough of it to really make a determination. He's also directed lots of episodes of popular shows like Parks and Rec and Community and stuff like that. So, it makes total sense that he would direct this. It was written by James Vanderbilt, which is a little bit of a surprise. He's written a couple of the recent Spider-Man movies. One of his big first movies was Zodiac in 2007.
Which is a very different movie.
Can't get much more different.
No, but that was a good movie.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah. You should see that, but it's nothing like this.
Yeah.
It's not delightful.
Yeah. No, this is delightful.
It's good, but it's not delightful.
If you find that delightful, we urge you to find a mental health professional.
Yeah.
Because there may be some things you need to work through. Obviously, Adam Sandler stars as Nick, and we have Jennifer Aniston as Audrey. Luke Evans plays Charles Cavendish. He was Gaston in the live-action Beauty and the Beast.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Danny Boone was Inspector Delacroix. He's a French actor, and I know I've seen him in stuff, but I looked through his IMDb, and I did not really recognize most of what he'd been in. So I don't know where I've seen him before.
Because he really did look familiar.
I know I've seen him in other stuff with his French accent, and
I haven't seen him either.
Yeah.
In anything else, although he looks familiar.
Yeah.
He is one of those faces, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you know, as somebody who has one of those faces, I can empathize. When I was in high school, all the time, you look like my cousin. You look like my friend's cousin. It was always somebody's cousin that I looked like. I'm like, great, thanks.
It's hard because...
Well, you know, what do you say to somebody when they say, hey, you look like somebody that you don't know and will never meet?
Right. Like, how are you supposed to respond?
Thanks.
Yeah.
I hope.
Right. Because that's the nerve-wracking part. You're like, I hope this is a compliment. It might possibly be a nice thing to say to someone.
Yeah, exactly. Or it could be really, really rude.
Really mean. So who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
But people do say that a lot. I think we're just so surprised by our own, like, oh my gosh, there's two of them in my life, you know, and we want to say something about that, but probably not necessary, y'all.
No, I would say certainly not to strangers at hockey games. Because it was always strangers who told me that. It was never like somebody I knew.
Oh, yeah.
It was always strangers. Hey, you look like, who are you? Who are they? Thanks.
Good
Have
day
a great
to
day.
you.
Yeah.
Good day to you. Goodbye.
Olafur Darri Olafsson, which I'm like, man, you got to have some confidence to name your kid Olafur Olafsson.
Yeah, I know. That's it's Icelandic. So I guess
he's born in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I read that, which is interesting.
So I don't know.
But he's primarily an Icelandic actor, and he played Sergei in Murder Mystery. He also played Ariel Helgeson in The Widow, which is on Amazon Prime.
I have not seen that.
It was really good. It was really good. It was another one of those that was really good, but not delightful.
Oh, yeah.
But
okay.
I would say if anything was delightful in the show, it was
him.
Olafur.
Okay.
And he's also going to be a voice in the Dark Crystal series that's coming to Netflix, which I cannot wait for.
Interesting. You can't wait, huh? Are you excited,
so excited. I've loved that movie forever. And I can't wait for a series. And then the final credit that I'd like to mention is the great looking flight attendant, which is how she's actually credited.
Is she really?
Yeah, is Adam Sandler's real life wife.
It's so sweet.
Yeah, I thought it was really cute.
It's so sweet.
Yeah.
In fact, I saw him. I think it was with Conan, and he had like a clip of the movie, of course, and then that's the one he showed was the little scene where he's with his wife talking, you know, and
which I thought was really delightful. And I made notes about that. I'm like, delightful exchange.
It was. And I thought it was just so sweet of Adam because he just wasn't going to miss an opportunity to do that. You know?
And he wasn't going to miss an opportunity to bill her as great looking flight attendant either. I'm like, oh, that's sweet.
Yeah. He's kind of a sweetie.
All right. So shall we recap this?
Let's recap.
All right. So Nick, Adam Sandler, has failed his detective exam yet again. Yeah, it's sad. And he implores his coworker and friend, whom Nick and Audrey, Jennifer Aniston, are going to have dinner with that night, to not tell Audrey. Don't tell her that I failed it again, because she thinks that he passed it the first time he took it, which was like 3 times ago. Audrey, a hairstylist in the tropiest of trope scenes in this entire movie, is complaining to her friends in the hair salon where she works that he hasn't taken her to Europe yet. It's their 15th anniversary. soon, like the next day, but they go out to dinner. Anyway, Nick gets Audrey a $50 Amazon gift card and a card and the wrong kind of allergy medication for their anniversary. And Audrey is, after they've gone out to dinner, is aggressively flossing. And Nick asks her about it. Why are you so aggressively flossing? And she busts out with, I want to go to Europe. It's been 15 years. What are we waiting for? And surprise to them both, he says he's taking them to Europe for their anniversary.
Yeah, he turns it around. Like, you just couldn't be patient and wait for the anniversary day.
Yeah. Yeah, but he hadn't planned it at all. There was big fat lie.
Big fat lie.
The sweetest of intentions behind it. He didn't want to disappoint her.
He didn't want to disappoint her. And to his credit, he follows through.
Right. Yes.
So, okay.
Yes, because then in the next scene, they're on a plane.
Yeah, they go.
Yeah. So we don't know how much time has passed, but not a significant amount of time, which probably made this trip way more expensive than it should have been.
Probably, except they definitely tried to cheap out on some of their excursions, if you will.
No, yeah, we'll get there. So on the plane, Audrey is reading a mystery novel. She's a fellow lover of crime entertainment,
Yay!
Which I like. Yay, Audrey. Nick jokes that the butler did it. Then Nick falls asleep and Audrey wants earplugs and they cost $9, like highway robbery, but whatever, man. So she sneaks into a higher class cabin, finds a pair of earplugs and steals them off of
like a first class seat.
Yeah, a first class seat that's unoccupied. Momentarily, you can tell somebody has been there.
Right.
So she's headed back to her seat with her pilfered earplugs. She stops to get some nuts in the airplane bar and meets a handsome gentleman. Yes. They strike up a conversation and he tells her his name is Charles Cavendish, and that name is enough to keep the flight attendant from kicking Audrey out of the lounge that she's not supposed to be in.
Yes, he has a heavyweight name.
Yes.
But he's also got a heavyweight charm.
Oh, yes.
Very suave.
He's suave and beautiful and, all the things. When he shares his name, she says he sounds like a character from one of her mystery novels. And he says, what character would I be? And she said, well, with a name like that, you'd have to be the villain, which is very entertaining.
Except when they said that, all I could say is, well, he needs little gray stripes on the side.
Oh.
You know? You know what I mean?
He's a little too young to be the villain.
Yeah, I don't know. There's something, he didn't quite, to me, look like the villain. But I guess if I was reading the book and I heard that name, I'd picture something similar, but with the gray on the side of the head.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. A little more aged.
Yeah, maybe so. Mm. Well, I don't know. Okay, so Zoltan Casas. I need to learn how to pronounce that man's name because he's one of my favorite comics now.
Right.
You can find him, but he has this bit about elections. And his first election he voted in was when Mitt Romney was running. Uh-huh. And he was like, I can't vote for him. I can't vote for. He had like the gray on the side. That's every villain in every cartoon that ever. He was going to become president and like try to take down Gotham. It was just, and kill the Ninja Turtles. And I was just like, oh my gosh. I never thought of it, but he's so right. He does. He looks like a cartoon villain a little bit. Very funny.
Poor Mitt Romney.
Poor Mitt Romney. It was just the most hysterical little bit anyway. But so I'm looking at this guy and all I can think is, no, he's got to have the villain stripes. Yeah. I digress.
So they're chatting. Cavendish tells Audrey that he's going to celebrate the wedding of his rich and elderly uncle, Malcolm Quince, the Malcolm Quince, which is a name in this universe where this is taking place.
Not a name we all know.
Right. Yeah. To Charles's former fiance.
I say she a gold digger.
No, absolutely. I think that's what we're supposed to understand the entire time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Nick wakes up because he's been asleep and finds Audrey in the bar, and Charles invites them to join him to the luxury yacht to celebrate the nuptials of his uncle to his ex-fiancée. And Nick's not really very comfortable with it, and so they agree that they're just going to go on the bus tour that he had already booked. So they get to the airport and they go out to go board the bus, and it's a bunch of Americans fighting and children screaming, and it's an old nasty bus.
Yeah.
And they both look at it and they're like, yeah, we're going to go on the yacht. So conveniently, Cavendish is standing right there with his beautiful luxury car that he's driving himself, and they just go get in the car with him. This is one of those things where you just suspend your disbelief.
Yes, you just have to go with it.
Yeah. So once they're on the boat, we meet this whole cast of characters.
This is where it becomes the murder mystery.
The murder mystery,
right?
Very like Clue.
Yeah, this is where it becomes that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Susie, Charles's ex-fiance and Uncle Malcolm's new wife. Toby, Malcolm's son. Grace Ballard, an actress. Vic, a rich playboy with the title of Maharaja. And it's in a conversation with Vic that we first learned that Nick, because that's not confusing at all, Vic and Nick. Nick, the wannabe detective, is a terrible shot. He cannot shoot a gun accurately at all.
Poor Audrey just throws him under the bus.
Oh, she sure does.
Yeah, that was not okay.
Yeah.
That was
funny,
an oops.
It was funny, though.
What's amazing is how well she pulled that scene off, because I'm cringing on Nick's behalf, like the whole time. And I'm literally willing her to shut up. And I'm like, well, everything she does from the silly movie or whatever, I'm totally enthralled.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Colonel Ulenga, who's the Nambian Defense Force official and Malcolm's best friend. Sergei, the colonel's bodyguard and smoking helper, evidently, because Colonel Ulenga has an artificial hand, and Sergei pops his hand off and sticks a cigar into the hand and pops it back on.
So ridiculous.
It was so weird and gross and cringy and hilarious. Anyway, and then Juan Carlos, who's a Monaco Grand Prix driver. So they come to a gathering. Malcolm's about to arrive imminently. This gathering has an obscene amount of shrimp. There's this ornate dagger, the Quince dagger, which was given to the Quince family by none other than Marco Polo himself. Malcolm arrives on a helicopter and then addresses his guests individually and comes to a conclusion. They're all leeches.
Leeches, I tell you.
The best thing he can do for them is to cut them out of his will so that they can make something of themselves. And he's going to leave it all to his new wife. So Grace, the actress, storms out. Malcolm's about to sign a new version of his will right there in front of them with no attorney present.
Yeah.
And the lights go out.
And the lights go out, as they do.
As they do in murder mysteries.
Yes, they do.
This is where you suspend your disbelief and you just enjoy it for what it is. Everyone shouts, there's a gunshot, and the lights pop back on. And Uncle Malcolm is dead on the floor with the Quince dagger in his chest. The colonel pulls the dagger and Vic tells him, you should have left it there for the popo. And so the colonel puts it back in. Oh, it was so like, whoa.
And it made a sound.
Oh, it did. It was squishy. It was a moist
squishy
sound. It was gross. Whoa. But it was very funny. I thought it was really funny.
It was just one of those moments.
Which is why I mention it, because it's
just funny.
Really funny.
And the whole time Nick's like, Bob, no.
Yeah, speaking of Nick, he goes into detective mode.
He does. He goes into detective mode because he is a detective, air quotes included.
Yeah. He knows all the answers. He just freezes on the test. He's just a poor test taker. So Nick asks the captain to secure the room, call Interpol, and everyone needs to go to their room because one of them is a murderer. Shortly, there's another gunshot. And it's son of Malcolm, Toby, seems to have committed suicide after typing out a confession that he killed his dad.
Right.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah. So they arrive in Monte Carlo and they meet Inspector Delacroix. He's on the case. And then there's an interrogation scene, which I thought was great. There's lots of cuts of the the inspector asking questions and different people answering. And I thought it was really like fun. And we see some of them lie. We see some of them place dumb. All of them say the only thing that was unusual was the Americans.
The Americans.
So then the inspector questions Nick and Audrey together. They are his prime suspects, but he doesn't have any evidence to hold them. But Charles Cavendish is providing accommodations for them. So the inspector's keeping their passports, which I don't know if they can do that. And I couldn't find any information that told me whether or not they could actually do that. But I think if he's holding your passports and says he's not going to give them to you, he can probably keep them, legal or no.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is it doesn't really matter whether they can or not.
Legality is...
maybe not so, yeah.
Possession 9/10 of any law, evidently. So,
I guess so.
Yeah.
That's true.
So then the Grand Prix begins, and they talk about how there are 3 basic motives for murder: money, revenge, and love. Everyone shares their theories about who killed Malcolm, and Nick and Audrey get a note telling them to go to Suite 802. I don't know why they would go.
Yeah, I don't know why they would go, but maybe I do know why they would go.
Because they had to go for the movie to advance.
Well, that too. That too. How do you not go?
Well, also true.
I mean,
but I love that Nick is, I need to take a weapon.
And so
here's a lamp. Which was really funny. So they get to Suite 802 and it's Sergei. And he says that he has to confess the information that he knows about the Colonel. That the Colonel saved Malcolm's life in 1994, but fell into a coma doing that. And when the Colonel finally awoke, his fiancée, Madeline, was married to Malcolm. That was his motive to kill Malcolm, was revenge. Yes. There's a knock at the door, and Sergei tells them to hide, pushes them into a wardrobe, and then we hear gunshots, and Audrey says, "Where's the lamp?" Because she made fun of him for his makeshift weapon.
Right, but
and
now
then
she's
like,
why
didn't you bring your makeshift weapon in with us? Come on, man. It was funny. Sergei is shot through the door and the couple flee out of a window. They know that it wasn't the Colonel who shot Sergei because they go past his window on a ledge and see him flossing aggressively. Vic and Grace didn't shoot Sergei because they're fooling around. And Nick and Audrey end up at a pub, and they see the inspector on television saying that they're murderers and that they are wanted. And this is how Audrey learns that Nick
is not a detective. Because he is billed as officer.
Yes. Well, and I think he even explicitly says he's not a detective or something like that.
I think he kind of does.
I think it's fairly explicit, knowing, because the inspector knows that Audrey does not know.
Right, because she keeps saying, my husband's a detective.
Right.
And he's looking at his background check going,
no, he's not.
Not so much.
Not so much. So Audrey's angry. They part ways, but then they both end up at an attorney's office where Charles and Susie are meeting the lawyer about Malcolm's will.
Yes, because which one? Which one do they use?
Yeah, exactly. Which one do they use? And Audrey was on her way with Charles to a villa to hear a reading of the will. But prior to that, they stop at this attorney's office. She goes in, it's like, something's weird. She finds Japanese Claritin, and Susie is Japanese. And so she goes in to investigate, and Nick has followed Susie to this same place.
Right.
And they're in this library trying to figure out what they're going to do. They get shot at. It's just like death at the library.
And then they push over giant bookcases as if that was at all possible.
Yeah, exactly. And run. Suspend your disbelief.
Suspend your disbelief.
It's just a fun movie.
But if I ever had the chance to, in a large, really ornate library with giant bookcases,
would you try and push them over?
If I was able to, and I was given permission to make that domino happen, I would totally do it. That'd be so fun and satisfying.
Yes, it'd make
really
a
would.
huge mess. And as long as I didn't have to clean it up, it'd be great.
Fantastic. Yeah.
They run out into the street and they run into Juan Carlos. Why he's there, we don't know exactly. But they're running and chasing, and Susie catches up with them and holds them at gunpoint and is monologuing about motives, and they don't understand anything. And then she gets shot in the neck with a blow dart.
I mean, it's just crazy.
It really, like, shocking. Yeah, by
blow dart.
A blow dart by a person in a mask, which I didn't know you could use a blow dart when you were wearing a mask.
I mean, you have to be pretty quick with the up and down there.
Yeah. Nick and Juan Carlos chase the masked individual, and Audrey stays with Susie trying to figure out what she knows, but she's terrible at helping somebody who can't speak actually say things, like get their point across.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it was not efficient at all.
Yeah. So during the chase scene, Nick injures the masked person, but they get away on a moped. So Nick and Audrey are convinced that Charles is the killer. They head to the villa where they were going to do the reading of the will, whatever will was there.
Whichever one they were going to do.
Yeah, whichever one they were going to do. The inspector is about to send out a manhunt for Nick and Audrey, and Nick and Audrey call him and tell him exactly where they're going. And they want him to meet them there, which he's very surprised, and it's kind of funny.
Yeah. He hasn't seen a lot of American movies.
Yeah. No, he's been in a lot of French movies. They arrive at the villa and they go to confront Charles, and he's dead. So now they're like, we don't know who did it. We were convinced that he was the killer, and now he's dead, so he can't be the killer. What are we going to do once they kind of decide they're going to fake it till they make it?
Well, you know what? What do? You steal his clothes. And you get fancy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You get confidence by stealing a dead man's tuxedo and pilfering wardrobes.
Listen, 70%. How you look, 20% how you sound, and 10% of what you say.
Oh, there you go. I was like, oh, and look, they found a dress tailored to Jennifer Aniston. It's amazing. They head to the study where the 4 remaining potential heirs are located. They tell everyone, including the inspector, that Charles is dead. And Vic explains, y'all are the miniature Manson family. Which made me laugh both times I watched this. Nick and Audrey lay out what they know. And then Nick looks at Audrey and says, maybe we did do it. Because it seems like nobody did it. Everybody seems to have an excuse. So the inspector says that they're lucky that Malcolm died in French territory because there's no death penalty in France. And this reminds Audrey that she had spoken to the colonel earlier, and French law has specific terms about inheritance.
Yes.
And it precludes excluding children, which is what his
will would have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Nick had called his coworker back in the States and found the death certificate for Madeline, Malcolm's ex-wife, who had died in childbirth, but they couldn't find a death certificate for the child she'd given birth to. They had assumed that it was a boy, but no, turns out Malcolm was only interested in a boy and had shuttled off his daughter, who survived the birth. He has a child. Grace is this child.
Yes.
Grace is the missing daughter. So Grace turned out the lights, and Toby actually killed Malcolm so that he and Grace could split the money. But then Grace killed Toby out of greed.
Yeah, of course.
Money. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Grace admits to being Malcolm's daughter, but doesn't admit to any of the murders. And Grace is wearing a hat. Grace refuses to remove her hat when asked because they're pretty sure she's the blow dart killer because she was in a movie
where she used a blow dart.
Blow dart princess.
Yeah.
Princess Blowdart. Sorry.
Thank you, because that other way does not exactly, well, either way doesn't sound like something you'd find on Netflix.
No, that's more like a late night Cinemax.
Yeah.
So the inspector snatches the hat right off of her head, and lo and behold, she has an injury to her forehead where she was hit with the plate. And the butler did it just like Nick said at the beginning, because her mother's last name roughly translated
Was
to
Butler.
butler. Yes. But Grace hadn't accomplished. She didn't do it alone. Juan Carlos, who all this time we didn't think spoke English, definitely speaks English. Juan Carlos takes the inspector hostage, and the race car driver steals a police car. Nick and Audrey give chase in a Ferrari with Audrey driving, because they
got in.
They get in, and Nick's all excited to drive the Ferrari.
Yeah, he's all excited, except guess what? You're in Europe. So she gets into the passenger side. Well, but it turns out to be the driver's side.
Yeah, exactly. Very funny. There's this whole car chase through the streets of Monte Carlo. The car chase ends with a wrecked Ferrari, but Juan Carlos can't get away.
Yeah.
He's wrecked his police vehicle. And so, yay, the inspector is saved. But Juan Carlos gets out of the car, and just as he's about to shoot Nick in the middle of the street, because what else has he got to lose? Absolutely nothing. He gets hit by a bus, and not just any bus, the tour bus that Nick and Audrey are supposed to be on. It was very funny.
It was very funny.
It was very funny. So Interpol, who's ready to lock Nick and Audrey up and throw away the key, is grateful that they helped solve the mystery. We get no idea who actually ends up inheriting Malcolm's fortune.
Nope. We have no idea.
We have no idea. That is never tied up for us.
No.
But Interpol is so grateful that they organized a trip, and it's on the Orient Express, which is the homage to Agatha Christie.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Uh-huh.
As is the mustache that Adam Sandler sports throughout the movie is Hercule Poirot.
Right. Okay.
Homage.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
All right.
So
I'm
it's a
picking
little
that
like,
up.
yeah. There's some subtle fun things that don't really matter. But if you're an Agatha Christie fan, they would be things you'd pick up. I only picked them up because I read about them on the internet.
Yeah, because I've never read anything from Agatha Christie.
No, me either. It got kind of mixed reviews.
Yeah.
Because it's not for everybody.
No, it's not.
But I thought it was really funny, and I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was funny, too. I mean, it was just, it was easy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's kind of what Vox said about it. They said it was very specific sort of direct to Netflix offering. Mm-hmm. And it was really designed to kind of impersonate other movies you've seen without
being a direct parody.
Yeah, exactly. And that, it's not too far off the formula. They didn't do anything too innovative, but it's clever enough to be enjoyable. And you just pop popcorn and put on something fun and funny for an evening.
Right.
That's all it is.
It's easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's so funny because, on Roger Ebert, RogerEbert.com, and so Brian, he has a review here, and it says, it's just entertaining enough to make you wish it was actually good.
Oh, that's fair.
I was like, yeah. That sums it up right there.
That's really super, super fair.
Super fair.
Because it didn't have to be good for me to enjoy it, though.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Well, it had to be good enough, because if it had been any worse,
then
you wouldn't be able to get past it.
It wouldn't have been fun.
Right.
But yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a difference between a legitimate plot hole and just choosing not to address something in the story.
That's fair.
Right? And they do a good job in these kind of movies. Adam Sandler does a good job in his movies where there are plot holes, but really you could have done the movie there. You could have filled in that hole. It would be easy to do, but he just chooses to kind of overlook that.
Right.
Right? And then he gives you a few precious moments that are kind of like those silly coincidences of life, like the bus at the end, and, that doesn't really happen, but there's not that happening all the time. So when it happens at the end, it's a little like,
yeah.
When it happens all the time, That's when it's not good.
Yeah, that's a good assessment. On that assessment, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Welcome, travelers, to the Mundane and the Arcane, a 5e D&D podcast. I'm Matt, the Dungeon Master for our new campaign.
I'm Deacon Bishop, and I like to party.
I'm Grognag Vagan Smith, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
And I'm Senko, and I cast Guiding Light.
Come join our party as they explore the river town of Tristalin, fight threats like magical crabs, and rob stores such as Bards and Nobles. We release bi-weekly. Now, everyone, I'd like you to roll initiative.
All right, so can it happen?
Okay.
I had to take some liberties with some of this. Can you floss too aggressively?
Yeah. Well, yes. Yes, you can.
You can floss too aggressively. Now, I would say most dentists will say people don't floss enough and often don't floss aggressively enough. But you can floss too aggressively, and it can cause you to have receding gums, tender gums, bleeding, exposure, roots. Just, if you do it every day, you don't have to do it aggressively. So, does it really cost $9 to buy earplugs on a plane?
I don't doubt it.
Well, it depends on what airline you fly. If they had been flying Virgin Atlantic, they could have gotten a free Relax pack that would have included earplugs and eye shades, socks, a pen, toothbrush, and a toothpaste. So if you're ever flying Virgin Atlantic, ask for your free Relax pack.
Yes, you should do that.
Don't pay $9 for earplugs.
Yeah, or just, put on your earphones.
Or pack your own.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be on a flight overnight in economy class. Maybe I should take some earplugs.
Or headphones. Yeah.
Headphones.
Seriously.
Yeah. There's all kinds of other things that some airlines provide. Hawaiian Airlines evidently provides free alcohol and meals.
Yeah, actually, there are a decent number of them do.
Yeah.
When you're overseas.
Yeah. Yes. So you can get free Wi-Fi or messaging on some. All depends on the airline.
Hey, T-Mobile, y'all.
Yeah.
If y'all on T-Mobile, then if your plane has Wi-Fi, right? Like you can connect and have basic internet surfing and messaging.
Nice.
You don't have to pay for their package.
Nice. That's pretty awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
The moral of the story is check what's available on your flight with your airline for your flight before you go.
Yes.
Which of course she didn't do because this was all last minute.
Yeah.
Is there really a Monaco Grand Prix? Oh, there is absolutely a Monaco Grand Prix. It is considered one of the unofficial Triple Crown events of the Formula One racing. It's an exceptional location of glamour and prestige because what city were they in?
Aren't they in Monaco?
Monte Carlo.
Oh, they were in Monte Carlo. Yeah.
Yeah. Because Monte Carlo's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And it's held on the streets of Monaco, just like around. So and it's got a lot of elevation changes and tight corners. So it makes it one of the most demanding Formula One tracks because, you're also trying to not run into buildings.
Or run off a cliff.
or run off a cliff. Imagine that. And it's the only Grand Prix that doesn't adhere to the mandated 190-mile minimum distance because it's so twisty and difficult. It is extremely expensive to go. I looked up ticket prices just for fun.
Oh, no.
So in the worst seats, in the least desirable locations, on the days that mean the least to the race, you can get tickets for under $100 per person, which sounds not so bad.
That's not bad.
But if you want better seats and better locations, better days, you're looking at $300 to $500 per person per day.
Ooh, that's steep.
And if you want the VIP terraces in the best locations on the best days, you're looking at about $4,000 a person.
What is this? The Super Bowl?
I mean, it's held like the last week of May, so I'm sure it's like absolutely gorgeous. The weather's probably perfect. It's, sunny. I can imagine being on this terrace. And, if you're fabulously wealthy, what's $4,000?
Right,
Nothing.
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 I can't even imagine.
No, me either.
But I also couldn't imagine paying that kind of money to watch Cars. I can't do it.
I'm so glad other people like it.
Me too. Because I would be of no help to them.
No, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, there goes the Cars really fast. Look at them go. Could you refill my champagne, please?
I seriously would have champagne in one hand and like Facebook open on the other hand.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even see any cars.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Are there European bus tours like the one that Nick and Audrey almost took? Sort of. I would say they're mostly a little nicer than what you saw. I think you would probably have to do some work to find something like what they saw. They're usually like pretty big bus touring companies that provide these, like the little mom and pop ones are not particularly available. There are ones that range from luxury. They handle everything for little bitty groups. And then you have mid-range, which offer less stuff and slightly larger groups. And then you have the really low end, pack them in. You can get a bus tour for like $150 a day, but you have to be really, really careful about how much they claim you're going to see, because the more they say you're going to see, the more time you're spending on the bus.
Yeah.
And if you stop in different cities every night, that's an indicator that you're going to spend a lot of time on the bus. So if you're going to they suggest seeing quote unquote less and picking a tour that has you in a hotel 2 nights in a row, the same hotel 2 nights in a row, because you're going to actually get to see more of that. So your first night, you'll probably get there, check in, go to sleep. Then the next day, you're going to get a whole day in whatever city that you're in. You spend the night again, and then you move on to the next city. You're going to get more out of a tour like that. You're going to spend a lot less time on the bus.
Now, okay, tell me, are you a tour fan? Do you like doing these kinds of tours, like these scheduled tours?
I'm not like a big fan of seeing a bunch of stuff all at once, I don't think. I would rather go and say, I'm going to go to Rome. I'm going to go to New York City. I'm going to go to San Francisco and spend my vacation there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I never sleep well the first night anywhere ever. It's always Sleep in Pill City for me. And usually Sleep in Pill City the entire time we're gone, and I can wake up and be fine.
Yeah.
Because I'm in a different place. But I want to be in this. I just want to spend the whole time. How about you? Are you?
Yeah, I can't stand these kind of tours.
No, not at all.
Especially buses. Oh. Now, I do get a little car sick.
Yeah,
I think
me
that
too.
probably plays a role. I don't enjoy time on a bus at all. I got independence issues too. So like, I don't want to be.
You don't want anybody telling you what to do?
No, I can't stand it.
I do have a friend who's going on a tour of Italy, and it's like a tour, but it's just her. She's leaving her husband and children at home, and she's just going to do this thing and like eat and drink her way across Italy. And I think that would be
a little
better.
I don't know. I just can't. I can't.
I don't know. On the one hand, I don't want anybody telling me what I can and can't do. But I also love the idea of somebody saying, here's this option available to you, and your food is already taken care of. All you have to do is pick from the things on this menu, and here's a beautiful wine paired with it. I love the idea of that.
Well, so I can see that. I mean, that's nice. That's like a...
Okay, so you would do better if you were going to do some kind of tour. You would do much better with the luxury tours, which can run up to $1,000 a day per person.
Probably, but if I have to step foot on a bus...
No go.
There's
some pretty nice buses.
No go.
You're like, not at all.
No go. I get motion sickness enough that there is not a moment on a bus that I'm happy.
Oh, that's fair.
I'm not a moment.
I stopped riding the buses to kid field trips.
Oh, yeah.
When my daughter was in kindergarten, because we went to the zoo and they were like, please ride the bus with us because we need another adult to help take care of things. And I was like, never again, never again. Never again.
I can't. It's hot. People want to talk. I'm not so good at talking on the bus kind of situation. Like, I don't know. It's just not good.
Yeah.
Maybe a train where it's really easy to get up and walk around.
Yeah.
You might be able to go converse.
So you might do well on the Orient Express.
So I could do that kind of thing. I could do like the train wine tour in like California situation. And I could do river cruises.
Oh, see, and I'm like a boat. Nope.
No?
No go.
No go.
See, no.
Yeah, I can
no
do a river
kinds of
cruise.
boats. See, I'm not so against the buses, but I'm not going to be one to ever be on a cruise ship.
No? Not
No.
even on just a river.
No. Nope.
Is it
no boats.
seasickness or is it kind of just like that's weird?
No, it's like seasickness.
Yeah.
It's like the motion sick, the particular, whatever motion sickness that happens on a boat is way worse for me than even
car.
the back seat of a car.
Right.
And I hate the back seats of cars.
Mm-hmm.
And
Me too.
Yeah.
No, I would say large cruise ships, not a bunch of movement there. Like not a bunch.
Even still.
Not so much. But the smaller you get, the more you kind of
See,
feel
and
it. But I pop some Dramamine. It's all good.
Yeah.
But you can get up and walk around. That's just the difference.
That's
You're
the
not
difference.
sitting there just being
Stuck.
Yeah, you're doing and you're going and you're at the pool and you're
Yeah.
You know.
What are some cheap ways to travel around Europe? Well, I have 7 cheap ways to do
the
it.
quintessential like backpacking through Europe situation.
Yes, pretty much. They've got 3 different types of buses that you can take that are indicated here. They also suggest budget airlines. They said you have to be really, really careful though, because they will, if you make the slightest mistake, they will charge you out the wahoo and you might as well have just taken a regular airline.
Yeah.
So if you know what you're doing, you can get really, really cheap fares and fly around Europe. Mm-hmm. You have to maybe go with somebody who really knows what they're doing.
I would suggest that.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of any budget airline.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of any of them except for Norwegian Air, EasyJet, Ryanair, Eurowings.
Yep.
I don't know with all the trouble that they've had with 737s lately.
Oh, well, they all have 737s, but likely not as many Max as you
Right.
think because they have the older ones. But if you've ever seen the show Air Disasters,
maybe not. Maybe no budget airline.
maybe not. I mean, that list is pretty stacked over there.
Yeah. This one might appeal to you. They have a Eurail pass.
See, now
you can take a train. Yeah. And then they have Blah Blah Car, which is Europe's version of like Uber or Lyft, basically. And they said that one's pretty fun because you can get an inexpensive ride somewhere and meet a local.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that can be kind of fun.
Now that sounds like kind of fun.
And then their cheapest way to travel around Europe, hitchhiking.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the article they said hitchhiking is quite common in Europe and safer than you would think. I've met a number of travelers who've done it and have been fine. And I'm like, well would you hear for the ones who weren't fine?
Gotta love that kind of logic, that kind of research.
Everybody I've
Stellar.
talked to is fine.
Oh my gosh.
You wouldn't talk to the ones who aren't fine because they're dead in a ditch in a foreign country.
Thank you. Hello.
Don't hitchhike.
But I've heard that it is actually pretty safe because it's normalized there.
Don't hitchhike.
But I don't know that I could recommend that at all.
No, I'm not going to hitchhike, and I wouldn't suggest you do it either.
I definitely wouldn't do it alone.
Normal or not, no hitchhiking.
Yeah.
Okay. Does French inheritance law really require that estates be left to children?
See, this is a question I have.
Okay. So, sort of. They took some liberties with it because they made it sound like the entire estate had to go to the children.
Yeah,
Right.
kind of did.
So what it actually is that French law prohibits disinheriting your children entirely. So half of your estate goes to your child if you have one child, 2/3 if you have 2 children, and 3/4 if you have 3 or more children. Okay. So you're able to designate an alternate heir
Right.
for part of it.
Okay.
But There's certain things you have certain guidelines based on the number of children you have, how you can't just keep them from getting the money.
That is so interesting.
How
do you feel about this law?
On the one hand, like, okay, so if you're a deadbeat parent who's not paying child support, if something happens to you, okay, good. Now your kids are taken care of. On the other hand, what if they're adults and awful and you didn't want to leave them any money? Who's the government to say that you have to leave? Yeah, that you have to. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't bother me because my kids are great.
Right. Exactly.
I want to leave them an inheritance, but I can see where somebody else may not.
Yeah, I could see that
where
too.
you've got irresponsible people who've made poor choices and you're afraid they're going to piss away everything you've worked for, or, you feel like somebody else could use it and need it.
Yeah.
I don't know. But
I don't know.
Spouses are guaranteed a tax-free inheritance in the case they never had any children. But the parents of a deceased person, you can disinherit them. So you can disinherit your own parents. But the French law guarantees them the right of return, which means that they can reclaim property that they had given to their children in the case that they've been disinherited. So if they left a house, that they gave a house to their child, and then, they went and made it big somewhere and had all this money, but hated their parents and didn't leave them any money, their parents could go and say, well, I gave them that house. I want my house back.
Right.
And, forget the widow and the children, kick them out. That's my house now. And they can do that.
It's very interesting.
A little weird. It seems a little invasive, but
it does feel a little invasive. And on the other hand, I could see the merits of the principle.
Yeah.
Because I think that would do interesting things in the economy overall.
Well, it seems like it have maybe a stabilizing effect in some
That's
ways.
what I'm thinking. A little bit more of a not.
Well, and maybe an incentive too to stay on good terms with your family.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of creates a safety net in a way.
I mean, this is assuming
if you
that
have
you have
money to leave, right?
Yeah,
like if you don't have money to leave, then it doesn't even matter.
If all you're leaving them is debt, then
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's such a smaller country that what works there doesn't necessarily work in a large population like the U.S. But I'm interested in that principle.
I thought it was interesting, but
I think it's interesting.
They took a little liberties, but they were kind of there.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
See, simplified, not quite dumbified.
Yeah, exactly. Psychology break.
Psychology break.
In Murder Mystery, they claimed that there were 3 motives for murder: money, love, revenge. Are there
fair?
Really? Yeah, those are
strong motives.
Those are strong motives. I would say they're not the only motives.
They're not the only motives. I would say you'd have to kind of be more specific. Premeditated murder, maybe
probably.
It leans a little bit more that way. But premeditated murder is not really the most
common.
And so, you do see, though, anger and rage, and they're over these main kind of things, jealousy. Jealousy is a big motive, but revenge, the way they talk about it, it's really jealousy.
Yeah. Well, and love or revenge could both fall under jealousy.
Yeah, you could. Well, it's all wrapped up, jealousy. And, what's interesting is we kind of think of jealousy and envy as the same thing, but it's not. Those are two very different things, but we kind of use the terms interchangeably. It's jealousy particularly.
Well, they can kind of go hand in hand, but they're not the same thing.
Right.
And people confuse that, I think.
Yeah, they do. They have a little overlap, but yeah.
Yeah. So goal attainment would be one reason for murder, is that human beings believe they have the talent or ability to reach certain desired outcomes. And if we can't achieve those outcomes, ideally, we'd find another way to get there.
Right.
Or adjust our expectations. But when you feel like you have a lack of control or you don't have the ability to reach the goals, you can get frustrated. And murder, while it's awful, it's not really that physically difficult. And so some people will commit murder, and that will fulfill their need to attain a goal because they've committed murder, because it's not particularly hard to do because we're fragile.
Yeah. And it's hard because that's a love of self, in a way, but it's also in their minds, it's a survival. Very few people, I think, probably would use that as like a legitimate, like, I think logically, this is how I'm going to do that. I'm going to kill this person. And then it's not so much that you feel like you're a threat, that your survival, that the lack of attainment of a goal because somebody is in the way threatens your actual survival. It's a very convoluted way of thinking about it, but but hence the murder.
Yes.
But on the other hand, how many people have, acts of passion when they see a goal, or in self-defense?
Yes. Emotional intelligence. So people who commit aggression tend to lack the strategies to be able to deal with their emotional regulation. So instead of taking a deep breath and calming down, things that we try and teach our kids to help regulate their emotions, you feel it, but don't lash out. These people don't have that kind of filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't understand.
Either they are not capable of doing that, or they were never taught it, whatever.
Right.
Gratification.
Well, and that's
which I think would be like, that would be, money or love or revenge, is that you've got payoff in some way. So you can invest time and energy into doing something that will give you a payoff and make you feel gratified, whether that's business or a hobby or family or whatever. But, that takes a long time. And so some people would rather just commit murder to have this instant gratification.
Right.
So I would say it kind of ties in. It's an underlying sort of thing. Maybe a lot of these are things I think that people wouldn't recognize. Like the money, love, revenge, those are things we recognize. These are more underlying sorts of things.
Right. The reasons why, the thing behind the thing, Of course, there are some people out there who are just simply gratified by killing. And so that's the really dark side.
Yes, it's extremely dark. So recognition of competence. They don't necessarily have to have a socially acceptable behavior. You want to be recognized because you did a good job.
Yeah, I'm famous.
That's right.
Everybody's going to know my name.
Yeah, I'm famous, or I'm good at this, or I'm good at that. And I want people to recognize that. And if I can't be good at bowling, then maybe I can be good at murder.
Right. Yeah. Like, you know what? I kept failing that psych exam for the police department, so I'll just show them I'm smarter than them. That kind of thing where they taunt, because they
reminds me of Seven a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. They want people to kind of notice that they're smart, or they just simply want to be known.
Right. And then, social reciprocity, which is revenge, basically an eye for an eye. Don't get mad, get even.
Yeah, that's the revenge.
Yeah.
And I think there's one more that they really didn't talk about, and it's ideology.
Oh, fair.
Ideology does play a role, and I guess it could fall under goal attainment, but it's not necessarily a personal goal as it is this ideology of how things ought to be. And then there's this kind of hero syndrome of I'm going to go out and I'm going to do all of that, and because it's for the cause, it's a bigger thing. And people can really play that card of I'm a part of a bigger thing, and they can convince themselves that their horrendous and awful actions are furthering something that matters. And it kind of goes to that test, like, is it okay to sacrifice a few for the good of many?
Right.
Which is often on the psych exam.
Right. Yes.
Don't fail it. Don't fail it.
Or don't put yourself in a position where you need to take it.
Yeah. Well, and because if you're a first responder, you might have to make that decision. If you're a surgeon and you've got a bus accident, that's not good. We're not talking about Europe and buses. Let's think of something else. I don't know, like a construction worker accident.
Yeah.
You have several people in there and you've only got so much resources. Where do you put your resources knowing that, like, I can save these 5 people because I can divide up and do this, whereas all 5 of the surgeons need to work on this one guy. These are horrible decisions. It just doesn't make it okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's not okay. It's just crappy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but this ideology stuff is pretty big.
Yeah. Female murderers have different motivations. So
we're unique.
51% of us. So what are women's motivations for murder? Men, they are often driven by concealment and jealousy. And in this particular study that they were looking at in Australia, all of them that were doing concealment or jealousy murders were men. And that was closely related to conviction and hate or revenge or thrill murders. That those were almost all men. Women tend to kill for gain, money, or love. What they perceive as love might not actually be love.
Yeah, well, because if it was really love, maybe not murder.
Yeah, exactly. For example, women were more likely to carry out a murder that included an insurance payout or an asset of some kind, or woman following a divorce. Like if she thinks she's going to be cut out of the will, she might kill the man to be able to remain in the will and collect the... Yeah. Another form of love homicide, which is different than a lust homicide, not like no sort of sexuality there, where a woman might, because of mental illness, believe that she might kill a child, believing that them living would be a worse fate than death. So like the lady who had the postpartum depression and drowned all her kids in the bathtub, she was committing a love homicide because she was ill and she really thought that killing her children was in their best interest. Right. Which is awful. And, also a mother might take a child's life because she believes that if she kills herself, that her children can't live or they will be completely messed up by her actions. So instead of not doing those actions, she kills the children. Women are much, much less likely to commit murder out of jealousy at all. Like they're not going to usually kill a man because he cheated on them and, they want him back or whatever. That's not a woman thing. Women kill out of self-preservation or the ultimate act of love and kindness. Quote, air quotes there.
Air quotes. Yeah, anyway. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, sad.
It is kind of sad. Well, and postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis is no joke.
No.
It's no joke kind of thing.
No.
Yeah.
And that, again, that's kind of underdiagnosed. You don't have a lot of OBGYNs. They really rely on women to say, yes, I'm feeling poorly and I need help.
Right.
Rather than asking the kind of leading questions that might get them there to help somebody who's not in a mental state to be able to admit they actually need help.
Right.
To get them the help they need.
Yeah.
It's tough. You don't want to be too invasive. You want to believe people when they say, I'm doing fine.
You want to believe
you don't want to say, oh, are you really doing fine? Because that sounds demeaning too.
It's hurtful.
It's a really tough line to walk.
Well, and then it's hard because you have sort of the baby blues, which is not postpartum depression, but also very common just to kind of, and it's common almost to all women after having a baby, just because it's hard. You're in pain, you're recovering, you're not sleeping. It's just like
and you have hormone fluctuations that aren't normal for you. So you might feel euphoric and then very sad.
Yeah, it's just kind of, and then you have the depression, which is kind of that overwhelming. And then you have the psychosis where you actually kind of break from reality. And that's where you get the drowning babies and things of that sort. So it's just, it's really hard. And it's hard to predict it. Although there are some stats out there that show some associations.
Okay.
For instance, it's more associated, so postpartum depression and psychosis are more associated with women who had to try very hard to have a child.
Okay, that's interesting.
Who want it more.
Yeah. The ones who want it the most are most likely to have an issue afterwards.
Well, and that's kind of what the research says.
Yeah.
Close. It's most closely associated with it. And, there's been some other studies that kind of break it down further that but in a very general way.
Fertility treatments, do you think?
No, it was
just...
it was associated with expectations.
Oh.
The idea of identity. I'm a mom. This is what I was born to do. This is what it's going to be like. You kind of have all of this idea, and then you have a child, and you're like,
oh, this is way different than I thought it was going to be. Oh,
yeah.
It's interesting.
The idea that, you can control so much, or I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that with my child. And then, all of these kinds of things, but, the expectations leading up to it. And then kind of realizing that after you have a child, it's one thing to say that mothering is my gift or my talent, but to make it such your identity. And then you have a child and you realize, oh, I'm still here. I still have a self.
Yeah.
And you've ignored that self for a long time. And then you need yourself because you have to stay sane. And then, it kind of, so and these are not like super strong, like causal, directional kind of things. It's just that, there's other things that are probably even better predictors. But in general, if you have someone who's been trying for a long time, you might check on them more. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you would think it would be like the ones who are like, what?
Yeah.
Well, I'm pregnant. What?
Yeah.
That those are the ones. But
it's interesting.
There's a loose
It's
tendency.
different than you'd think.
Different than you might think.
All right. So real life.
Real life.
Audrey expected Nick to anticipate her desires without her telling him.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an unfair expectation.
Unfair.
You should not expect your partner to read your mind. If you want something in particular, like a trip to Europe, talk to your spouse about it. Don't just stew about it for 15 years.
Right.
That's good. Don't expect your partner to never make a mistake. They're humans. They make poor decisions sometimes, just like you do. Don't expect your partner to have their life together. She kind of expected him to pass the exam, which was a fair expectation because she'd helped him prepare and he knew all the material, but he just wasn't able to take the test in an effective manner. I don't know if he saw her as having her life together and he felt bad, or he just didn't want to disappoint her. I don't know, but that kind of seemed germane.
Yeah, a little pride on his end.
Yeah.
Because once she found out, she was kind of like, you could have told me.
Yeah.
I would have helped you again. I would have been there. So it was a little unfair to her that he lied to her.
Right. Agreed. I mean, I
Don't
see
lie
why
to
he
your
did
spouse.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
By and large.
Yeah.
That's good advice. What should you expect from your spouse? You should expect affection, which is different than sex. Like kind thoughts, compassion, respect, consideration, their time, that they have interest, that they're generous with you in ways that matter, not just monetarily, but with their expectations and different things. So there's a lot of things you can expect, but don't expect them to be mind readers.
No.
The Colonel pulled the dagger out of Malcolm's body. Don't do that. Preserve the crime scene. So technically, preserving the crime scene doesn't happen until the police arrive. But if you're at a crime scene prior to the police arriving, try not to mess it up.
Right. Yeah, just maybe don't touch things.
Yeah. Don't pull anything out of a body.
Oh my gosh.
At all. I mean, hopefully you're never at a crime scene with a body.
Yeah.
Let's start there.
I mean, let's hope not.
But if you are, don't touch the body unless you think the person's still alive and you can help them.
Right. Like if you're trying, yeah. Mm-hmm. But in that case, don't pull the dagger out.
Even then, yeah, don't pull the dagger out. You let a professional at the hospital pull the dagger out.
Yeah.
You can cause way more damage.
Way more damage.
Way more. So, you got to pay a particular attention to things that are on the floor because those are the kind of things that most easily are disturbed or messed up or contaminated. This is one I hadn't thought of. Don't ever use the telephone. Like if you have a home landline telephone at the scene, don't use it. Don't use it.
Okay, why?
But because you don't want to have a phone call go out that they're then later going to look at the phone logs And, if somebody whose fingerprints are on it, don't use the phone. It can be a good place for DNA. It can be a good place for fingerprints.
You can make it harder for them to
You can make it harder for them to distinguish what's what. So don't use the phone. And this is another one I hadn't thought of, was that no investigator of any kind, be it police or civilian, should ever be left alone while processing the scene.
Well, yeah.
Which I hadn't really thought of, because not only could they intentionally or unintentionally contaminate something, but if the suspect hasn't been apprehended, they might still be at the crime scene.
Yeah, or they could be Dexter and manipulating stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That's totally what I thought of. And then they're like, no, if
the safety of the okay,
the
that makes sense. But we went straight to Dexter.
I went straight to Dexter.
Yeah, don't leave him alone.
Absolutely. So, and Nick took a lamp as a makeshift weapon. What are some other makeshift weapons?
What are some other ones? What's the best one, I wonder?
I don't know. I don't know if there is the best one. Mace.
Well,
but that's not a makeshift weapon.
That's not really a makeshift. What would you take?
So they take, I don't know. I kind of like anything you can hit people with and not have to get too close. So I don't know.
A lamp.
That's a little close for me. So this article recommends keys in between the fingers, but you have to get that's
very
too
close, and you have to punch them in the face. And,
yeah, and just I don't want to be that close. I'd rather have mace.
Right. Well, definitely.
Yeah.
If I was in my bathroom or in my room or in my house, I guess, and I could get somewhere to my bathroom or my room, this is my weapon of choice. I definitely always have a lighter.
Okay.
Because I like to light candles.
Okay.
And I always have hairspray.
Oh, you're going to have a flamethrower.
That's exactly right. That is my go-to. I will take care of this situation. I will light the house on fire. Yeah.
That works for spiders too.
Oh, it does. And I've done that many times. And you'd be surprised how many times those little suckers will just keep burning. And I'm like,
they keep running around as they burn?
I mean, oh no, they stop pretty quickly.
Oh, okay.
I think their brains just poof, but their little bodies can burn for quite a while.
Really? Mm-hmm. I didn't know that a newspaper or magazine rolled up can make a really effective weapon.
Oh, really?
You roll them up really tight. So if you're carrying around a magazine, you can roll it up and it becomes pretty hard. You can hit somebody with it, but the end is also blunt, but also sharp enough to be painful. So if you hit somebody in the eye or the groin with
true.
The end of it, it's going to be pretty painful. It's going to give you a chance to get away.
That's true.
An umbrella.
No, that's a good choice. If you're out and about,
you got to be careful because a lot of them are made from pretty flimsy materials, or they're meant to kind of flex and give a little bit. So if you're in a windy situation, it'll flex and give, and you don't want to accidentally hurt yourself. They suggested a cane because hello, Stalin with your cane, but you might have to fake a limp.
I mean, even our president from who was it? Oh, my husband's going to kill me because I've forgotten who it was who beat off his attacker with his cane.
Oh, I don't remember.
I'll have to look it up later.
Okay.
Yeah. That makes sense. A cane is a good choice. I keep a baseball bat not too far away.
There you go. Pen or a pencil can be effective, especially if you're hitting somebody.
Yeah.
And it always reminds me of, I think it was the Joker. I saw this little, it was violent and awful, but also kind of fascinating. That's so much we talk about on the show is violent and awful and also sort of fascinating. The Joker had put a pencil.
That's going to be our t-shirts. Right there. That's the t-shirt.
Violent, offensive, and fascinating.
Yes.
Yeah. Where he had a pen or a pencil and he smacked somebody's head down onto it. And it was awful, but interesting. A briefcase. That'd be a normal sort of thing to be carrying around, but even an empty one can be an effective club. Cuticle clippers, if you end up in your bathroom, they're really sharp. They're deceptively sharp.
Yeah,
so
they are.
That would be good. And then this one I hadn't thought of, a belt.
Oh yeah, right.
I thought if and they
It's
say
kind of close.
Yeah, it's a little close, but it's not as close as keys. And if you have a big buckle, you can hit somebody or smack at them at least enough to like give you some space to get away. But they did point out, make sure that if you're going to be in a situation where it's even possible that you might use this, you want to be wearing pants that aren't going to fall down.
Well, that's true.
You
don't want to take your belt off and then be like,
I can't run away because my pants are around my ankles.
boy, if that's the case, you better have a plan, like fireman style, jump out of those suckers and go Charlie's Angels, like I'm sexy and resourceful.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's funny how I think women are the only one who think this way, really.
Or just, not quite detectives.
Well, so my husband and I had gone out for a date night and we parked in a parking lot and he chose a parking space and I had to take the opportunity to kind of say, just so you understand, this is the type of parking space that I would never choose if I was by myself. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about that. You never think about those kinds of things, but this would be a dangerous situation and I would never park here. And I was like, just kind of an FYI. We are always on guard with this kind of stuff. So I'm always kind of looking around for,
yes,
where am I? What's my situation? And then what do I have at my disposal?
If there's a panel van, I'm not parking next to it ever.
Never.
Because I've just seen too many fictional and real accounts where somebody got pulled into a panel van.
Yep. Well, and where we parked at a parking spot, and it was in a lot downtown, right? In a lot, but it was against a row of like pretty thick hedges.
Ooh, nope.
Right? Not a chance.
Nope.
Not a chance. Of course, your best weapon is absolute confidence.
Right. Well, yes.
You got to walk around, notice people.
You look them in the eye.
You gotta,
because then you can identify them later.
Yeah.
And they know it.
Yeah. And a little bit of just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good here.
Yeah.
And that's horrible because, I teach my kids that.
Yeah.
If you're walking the dog in the neighborhood. I don't care where you are. You need to have confidence about where you're going and what you're doing. And that also makes them keep paying attention to where they are and what they're doing.
It makes you not an easy target.
It does.
And really that's the biggest thing is how can I make myself not an easy target? You wear a crossbody purse.
Right.
You look confident. You look people in the eye. You're not distracted on your phone.
Yeah.
You say something to people all the time, like, you're so friendly. And I'm like, part of it's self-preservation. Naturally, I'm a friendly person.
You are. Yes, you are.
And I tend to be like, hey, let's chat. Random stranger in the store in line.
As long as they don't tell you look like somebody.
Yeah. As long as they're not creepy about it. No, whatever, man.
Yeah, no, I'm fairly chatty, but I also kind of fairly reserved. I don't know.
There's the fine line between being creepy and being friendly.
Right.
But it really is, part of it is self-preservation. And I don't think for a long time I recognized that about myself, that's what that was, looking to people and talking to people makes me not a target.
That's
because
true.
I can identify them. Oh, wait, she's nice. I don't want to do anything mean to her.
Or if somebody's watching you, they automatically know that there's people who have just seen you.
Yes.
And
they're going to remember. Yes, exactly.
And so that's not.
Yeah. Oh no, they're going to recognize her because she looks like that guy's cousin. They're going to remember her.
They're going to remember her.
All right. So next time, a movie neither you nor I have seen, and it is a gap in our crime entertainment education.
It is. We are remiss for not having seen this already.
We're going to visit the dude in The Big Lebowski.
Woohoo!
Woohoo!
Yeah. Finally going to watch it.
Yes. So join us in a couple weeks. We're so glad that you joined us today. Don't forget, if we missed something, if you have a favorite improvised weapon that we should know about, I absolutely want to hear about it. And you should find us on the social media. You can find us on Twitter at Killer Fun Pod. You can find us on Facebook, Killer Fun Podcast, the intersection of crime and entertainment. You can send me an email.
Yeah.
killerfunpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah, and then we'll post what you say.
Yeah, we'll post what you say, or we'll give you a shout out on the pod. I'm always looking to give people a shout out on the pod. So, tell us, give us some feedback, and I will absolutely say your name. You can be internet famous for a little bit.
Yes. All right. So seriously, go post. Tell us what your favorite improvised weapon of choice is,
and we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Forge Audio.
Dream it.
Build it.
Share it.